ladies and gentlemen. It's painful February Monday here, as of course the United States president has decided that his friends are his enemies, and he says, "quote." That every country in the world has ripped off the United States. Odd for a man who ripped up the free North American Free Trade Agreement just a scant 5, 6 years ago, ripped it apart and said I'm being ripped off on a deal that he opened on his own, on a deal that he demanded some years ago, and now is telling everybody the U.S. is being ripped off. Welcome back, everybody, to the Rant Network. I'm David Solomon. He is Stuart Brisgell. If this rant doesn't get you to figure out how we do challenge the status quo, then you haven't been listening. Today, this unedited, unfiltered, uncensored, and really unapologetic conversation will dive into right now what is probably the most important subject in North America today, let alone where it might go tomorrow. This is it, folks. This is all about diverse perspectives where we're going to make you laugh, think, get angry, go, and probably shout out today at the screen. Sit back and relax, folks, because we are about to dive into really this hot topic. Is Donald Trump doing this right? Now, Stuart, before I pass you the mic, I've heard this argument, and I don't disagree that the theory behind closing the borders, protecting the borders, Canada's done a lousy job. We know that Canada, Mexico have not done a good job. And Donald Trump went out and said, I need to close and secure the borders. But to stand there today and saying, I'm slapping an arbitrary 25% tariff arbitrarily until you close the borders, not only breaks it like the international law of trade, it also breaks the one agreement that he put together some few years ago. It's awesome to see how Donald Trump also doesn't seem to mind that Americans are yet what he called some short-term pain. Boy, Stuart, don't you think he's giving the Democrats a little bit too much fodder right now, and probably not listening to some of his advisors going, this is not necessarily the best approach? Stuart, but I'll let you talk about how really Canada is really screwing the United States.
Well, let's first just look at real numbers, David. The trade imbalance between Canada and the United States is, by my definition, 1% versus close to 20%. I'm going to share another slide so at least I can replace. One second.
Nobody knows. What are you showing? What are you showing?
I'm showing a trade imbalance of minus $78.20 billion.
How come?
That's in that screen there, which is pretty much no different than it was if I go back to the years of COVID. It was even lower. The trade imbalance between Canada and the United States, right? So United States is a deficit of about 18%. Let's go to the next slide. Let's go here. Let's look at the dollar imbalance, which I moved the slide on my screen. Sorry, guys. You're talking about how much? $300 billion. So Canada is running $78 billion of imports versus $300 billion of exports. Okay. Just to stop with this whole thing that it's a massive deal. Where people are bugged out is, you're right, the border. And you started off by saying it right. There's an issue at the Canadian border and the lax mentality the Liberal government has had for the last decade. And it's not necessarily exactly fentanyl coming across the border. It is the products that make fentanyl that are streaming across the Canadian border, making its way to Mexico and coming back up the border, which is what has gotten the U.S. government in a pickle. Not to mention the transportation of illegals going back and forth, which is probably the secondary issue of this issue with Canada. And if you want to understand the flow of fentanyl, you'll understand that it stems from number 24. Another slide I'm going to do, because David likes to say that he's the old wisdom expert as he tries to find out here. In slide put up right now, fentanyl flow to the United States. Look at number 24. Hails right into what state? There you go. So as you can see, it is there. And that is one of the main reasons why Canada is getting blamed for part of the fentanyl scam, because China ships.
Sorry, go on.
Shut me up.
No mistake.
Wow.
Go ahead.
Which is why the United States has put a tariff onto Canada until the Canadian government, the invertebrate little boy Trudeau, puts the border back up and runs. Once he has, and by the way, it's specifically and limited to things that get them to say, okay, we'll respect that border now, and we will put troops there, and we will no longer allow the flow of illegal migrants and the chemicals used to make fentanyl, which is what has the U.S. government with a radar and having a bullseye on Canada. Not that you're bad people. No, you have a bad government. And that bad government's costing us. And by the way, if Canada tries to retaliate, I assure you, the United States, again, has 1% export to 20% import. And just so that you know, whatever Canada does that tries to hurt the United States is amplified 20 times the power, because you guys are without the supply. Mm-hmm. It may be able to be replaced, but that replacement will take years to put channels in and get orders on the way. Mm-hmm. And that's just the bottom line. It's much easier. Close the border, do what you're supposed to do.
I'm sorry, could you please specifically delineate, because nobody can, because Donald Trump has yet to determine exactly what he wants. And everybody's been asking him, can you say what exactly you want? He says, when they do it to my satisfaction, I'll remove the tariff.
You're right. You know what? Because unlike your dumbass Trudeau and our previous dumbass Biden, who telegraphs, we're going to bomb you in East.
So Stuart, so you're telling me,
I believe, it's my belief. Okay. It's my belief this government runs in a way that it will meet with their leader. It will discuss the problems. What they mutually decide is public consumption. They will put a release statement out. The same thing they did with Colombia, the same thing they're going to do with Venezuela, the same thing they're going to do with Canada and Mexico. Canada needs to own its fair share of problems at the border and needs to stop the flow of these illegal chemicals that kill millions and millions of people, which, by the way, just so that you really should know, you might want to Google the fact sheet on the imposed tariffs, because as David seems to want to constantly say there is no facts, there are no reasons, I'm dropping the link in the chat where you can actually find the White House, which completely breaks down what this is, what's it about, instead of dumbass media personalities trying to interpret what it is. And now, why don't you take a look? Because, David, you can now look with all of our guests at the same time. Look, David, what's the issue?
Hey, Stuart.
Administration fueled the worst border.
While you insult everybody, and nobody could see on screen anything you're doing, but that's okay. While you insult everybody, let me ask this question. So the American president, who we've said, listen, this channel, we've said all along, we are going to be right-wing conservatives. We believe in the conservative policies and whatever. And here's one time where I'm saying I think your president went too far. Because if he treats Canada like Colombia and Venezuela, what is Britain and France supposed to think? And the reality is that I get that this is a president that ran on an America First policy, and I don't disagree on an America First policy. But this isn't America First. What he's done here is, rather than, listen, does he have a disdain for Pierre Trudeau? For Justin Trudeau, I should say, sorry. Absolutely. There's no doubt. Justin Trudeau and Barack Obama did their best to get rid of Donald Trump in the 2020 election. We know what happened here. There is no doubt. And we also know that Donald Trump is trying to retaliate hard against Trudeau and make his life as miserable as possible, bringing up the 51st state, bringing all this. This is not friends working out their disagreements.
Well,
no. I let you go. I let you go for 5. You got a shot. Stuart, Stuart, in typical childish fashion, you're showing the level of immaturity of your president. It's either do what I say, stomp my feet, cry, yell, and if I don't get my way, I'm going to just double down. That's the mistake that I think Donald Trump has made. And I have not said that he's made a lot of mistakes in the last few months, but here's where he made a mistake. Because even the conservative leader in Canada here is saying, whoa, what are you doing? You could sit here and talk about numbers, but let's talk about a reality, Stuart. Would you like to see a slowdown of cars in terms of car manufacturing in the United States? Well, that's what you're going to get. You want to see a slowdown of homes? Yeah, that's what you're going to get. Because you could show me numbers, and you're right, there's a tremendous imbalance, but that's the reality of trade. And that was the whole original North American Free Trade Agreement, or what was originally U.S.-Canada. Stuart, I want you to once again permit me to just have a great day, everybody. Stuart just seems to play immaturity at its best. It's a typical ploy because, when you tell somebody who doesn't want to listen, they might have there's a possible different opinion. Stuart, I want to congratulate you. I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you one thing. I think you're more of a Democrat because you're playing like a Democrat. Republicans claim that they're open-minded and listening, and you're playing the role of a Democrat. So thank you so much for being the lefty of this channel. The reality, folks, is that the United States, Canada, and Mexico are intertwined in their economic dependencies. And while there are financially trade imbalances, and Stuart will love to throw numbers at you and said, this is the only thing that matters, is the trade deficits. And that Canada and America, US, Mexico totally depend on the United States. We get it. But that's called interdependency. That's trade. The whole idea of bringing down... No. The whole... I let you put up these dumb charts. The interdependency is there. To say that the United States can be autonomous and doesn't need the United States is actually a contradiction. When Trump said we need the pipeline from Canada, okay? Don't tell me, listen, I get what he's trying to do, Stuart, and I'm saying you want to renegotiate, you want to close the borders, please do. I'm sick and tired of the fentanyl. I'm sick and tired of these illegal migrants. I'm sick and tired of the terrorists crossing the borders. I agree that Trudeau has completely screwed up. Sheinbaum doesn't give a crap. None of this. But to sit there and hurt Americans, because this is what it's going to be. The average American. Did you put up how much the cost of living is going to go up for the average American, Stuart? With these tariffs? So this is the problem. Stuart likes to, continue to show the numbers, but he doesn't want to show you the other side. So that's why I call him a Democrat. The Democrats play this game.
David, what I love about your banter and your claim to say that I am being just so Bavarian in nature. The trade imbalance is right there. I have the chart. I just put it up. And yes, you have numbers, David, and not emotions. And you're rather emotional on the subject. I'm sorry to hear. What you fail to understand is you're negotiating with a banana republic led by Justin Trudeau. Unfortunately, there are not very many ways to deal with someone like that except to eviscerate them totally and let them take the knee. Right. Really, because clearly the Canadian government has done everything that it needed to do that was in an equal, nice, neighborly fashion. Hey, yo, motherfuckers to the north, why don't you just sort of pay more attention at that border? We know it's big and long, but coming right through these main ports like where New York joins Canada, there's a lot of shit coming in that are byproducts are making fentanyl and killing millions of people in our country and your country. Hey, you know what? Why don't you do your job? I'm sorry, we just can't. We're just not interested. We don't think it's a problem. And let me tell you something. I believe that probably by the end of the week, this will all be resolved. And just so that you know, David, the imbalance on trade deficit and what you're trying to make up is, it's going to hurt the United States. Again, David, mathematically, if 1% is export and 20% is import, the deviation is 5. And that, my friend, is what it's going to cost any American.
Boy, even your own people. If Donald Trump admitted it last night that there's going to be short-term pain for Americans,
Yeah,
it'll
I
cost
do
more.
agree.
So you're
5% is a massive ordeal.
when you've campaigned, and this is the hypocrisy story, you campaigned on this, that you're not going to raise costs, that you're going to lower costs. Now, Stuart, you're sitting here today and you're telling me that the United States, is going to play the same old bully tactics and not help. Listen, do I think that this is the right approach? I just said to you, no, I don't think so. I think Canada has a responsibility. I think there was a different approach.
I agree.
If you want to play a trade war, and that's what it is. And you know what, Stuart? Today, I have to go talk to businesses and say, now what do we do about our growth into the United States? Because right now, exporting from Canada into the United States costs 25% more. Canadians are going to travel.
David, on certain things, not on everything. Again,
Stuart,
the lack of knowledge that you seem to bear.
You know what? Can you just shut the fuck up? Shut the fuck up for 2 seconds instead of cutting me off, and you'll listen. Okay? Yeah, it's a limited number of items. Yes, it's a limited number of items. But you created a problem on 3 borders. And you don't seem to want to bite. All you want to do is to say is, well, we're getting fucked. You're just quoting your president. The United States is getting fucked. Therefore, we're going to fuck you. If that's the attitude, good luck negotiating with any government, because at the end of the day, whether it's a conservative government or a liberal government, Stuart, no, hold on. This is the mistake that he's making. That you have when we elect a conservative government, which is what he wants here in Canada, Pierre Poilievre is not going to trust Donald Trump, because he's going to know that the handshake is going to be there and the knife will be in the back, because at any moment he could react. And if this is the way you want to negotiate, Stuart, and I'll give you the last word, because I think that you guys just fail once again to recognize that, yes, I see the math and I get what you're saying, but that is called trade. The whole idea back in 1990 of free trade was to create specialties in each country, to depend on each other, to be better at it, and to lower costs. This is not what was created 35 years ago. Stuart, last word to you, since you are the maven.
Well. Clearly, again, you're absent of facts and giving me all emotion. And by the way, free trade was signed in 92 and enacted in 94. And my father sat on the board of apparel where Canada got completely eviscerated on it. Anyways, long story short, NAFTA, North American Free Trade, the word free should have been removed from it.
There was no free. It's a dumb word. It was a wrong word. We know that. But the point is, we had an agreement on lowering tariffs.
Stop, David. I thought I'm talking now. Let the adults talk in the room. As we now talk about North American free trade, we now know that the word free was not the right word there, especially when there's a divergence of about 20% between the two. Bottom line is, David, I am telling you, sometimes the only way to talk to immature babies who seem to think their gonads have dropped when there are 30 million people is just a joke. You have to understand, David, this instance where Donald Trump has put in these tariffs is for the wow, shock, and awe factor, which means, you know what, guys, you're coming to the table and we're going to come meet in the middle and we're not going to wait. And this is forcing the invertebrate Trudeau to come and say, you know what, Donald, I'm sorry, we need to fix this problem today. And the matter that the United States has put Canada and Mexico in the corner by calculating, why is it that United States put Mexico and Canada at 25% and China at only 10%? Because on the ergo effect on what the trade deficit is. In fact, stuff from China at a 10% tariff is far more detrimental to the United States than anything from Canada or Mexico. But that's just what I believe. And if you understand that when United States finally starts opening the wells, yes, David, we're running over because you wanted to yell, curse, and use profanity.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stuart just seems to pretend that he is the adult in the room. I'll leave it to you to judge, because Stuart just likes to insult when nobody agrees with him. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back here again on Wednesday if Stuart still wants to talk to me, because, he's the adult in the room.